Hello everyone, welcome to soundproofguide.com. In this video, I'll talk about how to soundproof a party wall. One of the most frustrating things to deal with is a party wall that is a little bit too easy to hear sound through. Many rely on a well-constructed party wall to limit sound as much as possible, making life easier for both sides. When it fails to live up to expectations, people often look for ways to take soundproofing measures into their own hands. Just how easy is it to soundproof a party wall? Well, there are options to reduce sound, but none of them are going to eliminate sound completely. It is just one of those downfalls to having to deal with a common wall that acts as dividing partition. Party walls are used very often in both residential and business settings. It is a firewall that helps to divide two adjoining buildings. Think about settings such as condominiums, row houses, and businesses in a strip mall. Instead of making a place completely separate, they are usually shared at least one wall with a neighbor. In some cases, the wall on each side connects with someone else. Even though these walls are structurally sound and already kills a lot of sound, it still might not be sufficient enough for certain owners. The first thing you should do really is to add an extra layer of drywall. A popular way to soundproof an existing wall is by adding an extra layer of drywall over top of the existing drywall. One crucial detail most people forget to mention is not to use the same type of drywall that is already there. Use a thicker 5/8" sheet of drywall for your second layer. 5/8" drywall will do a much better job at blocking the noise coming from the other side of the wall, plus it only costs a few dollars more, making this well worth the investment. Another essential tip when doubling up the drywall is to use some sort of noise-proofing compound between the two layers of drywall. All you need to do is spread the noise-proofing compound liberally in a random pattern so you're getting some all over the sheet of drywall. This is not actually glued. It's a compound that is specifically made to help absorb and block sound waves from passing through the wall. But let's be clear. A noise-proofing compound is not a miracle noise blocker. It will, however, help reduce a few decibels of noise from passing through the wall. For the cost of a couple of tubes, it is well worth the investment. If you like this type of content, consider subscribing to my channel. I would also appreciate you leaving a comment if you have any soundproofing questions or comments for me to answer. I will provide links to each and every one of these products I talk about in this video in the description below for you to purchase. And now back to the video. Another great way to soundproof a wall is by using what is called a resilient channel. Most of the time I would install this in a basement ceiling to eliminate footstep noise coming from above, but this can be added to a wall to improve soundproofing. Make sure that you install the resilient channel as suggested by the manufacturer to achieve the desired effect. You can add resilient channel over the existing layer of drywall. Most of the time, I would suggest getting rid of the first layer of drywall and installing the resilient channel directly on the studs. However, since this is a party wall and you might not really own the wall itself, I would just suggest buying sound isolation clips and finding where the studs are and drilling them right through the first layer of drywall into the studs. With these sound isolation clips, there is a piece of rubber that will separate the drywall and the resilient channel, which will absorb the noise. After you've attached all of the sound isolation clips and the resilient channel, now you may attach the second layer of 5/8" drywall. This will create an air gap between the two layers of drywall, which will dramatically reduce sound from going from one side of the wall to the other. This is a process that may sound a bit more complicated to people that aren't as handy as others, but really it's not that complicated. If you have a stud finder, if you have sound isolation clips and resilient channel, all you need is to know the proper measurements, which you can find on my website at soundproofguide.com. I'll have the link in the description below, and you'll be good to go. One thing you can do to reduce noise from coming through the wall is to build a bookshelf. So let's say you need extra storage on top of soundproofing the party wall, and let's also say that you don't want to tear down the wall or add extra layers of drywall and resilient channel. You could use a little known soundproofing hack is by adding a bookshelf the entire length of the wall. By adding a bookshelf and then filling it up with books, you will be adding mass. This mass will do wonders in soundproofing the wall because you will be gaining an ample amount of storage at the same time. You can also add some cupboard doors if you don't have enough books to fill up the shelf. At least that way you won't be leaving any gaps where noise could get through a thin wall. What's nice with the bookshelves is if you don't own where you're living, you can dismantle the bookshelf and bring it with you to your next home. Another thing you can do if you don't own the party wall is to use soundproof blankets or moving blankets. If you live in an apartment and are unable to alter the wall, hanging soundproof blankets could be an option. Of course, soundproof blankets can be quite expensive because they are typically made in the shape of a doorway to use to soundproof a door. You would need to buy several of them to be able to soundproof an entire wall. A cheaper option would be to buy a bundle or a couple of bundles of moving blankets. Moving blankets are made of dense material and would help block noise. It won't be as good as an actual soundproof blanket, but it would cost you a fraction of the price, so it would certainly be something to look at. Another thing you can use is sound dampening paint. Yes, there is such a thing as sound dampening paint. Sound dampening paint or soundproofing paint is gaining popularity in the soundproofing industry due to its effectiveness versus the cost and application. This paint is certainly not a miracle sound blocker, but it will decrease the noise coming through the wall by a few decibel. Make sure to apply at the very least 3 coats for best result. I have articles on my websites and also a video on this YouTube channel going more in depth on one particular brand of noise dampening paint, and also another article and video talking about the effectiveness of this type of paint. So make sure to take a look at those articles and videos to know if this is the right course of actions for you. I'll have the link in the description below of both the article and the videos. And one very important thing to do is fill in the holes and gaps. This is a great method to use if you live in an apartment where you can't really alter anything. One place a lot of people wouldn't think of noise coming into a room is electrical outlets. Unscrew the cover of the electrical outlet and you will most likely see a significant gap between the box and the wall. All you need to do is fill in this gap with noise-proofing sealant. This sealant is more flexible than regular caulking and will not crack as it ages, letting sound through. Also, if the gap is a little bit too wide to use just sealant, you should add a backer rod around the electrical outlet to fill in this gap properly. Of course, if you're soundproofing an unfinished wall, the best way to soundproof an electrical box is by completely wrapping it with a product called putty pad. Most people, however, will be soundproofing an existing wall, so backer rod and soundproofing sealant is the easiest and cheapest way to go. You can also use the noise-proofing sealant between the floor and baseboards if you see any sorts of gaps. Most of the time you won't see a significant gap, but it only takes a minute to caulk this section of the wall and could decrease the noise transfer from the other room by a couple of decibels. And another way to soundproof a party wall is by using mass-loaded vinyl. Mass-loaded vinyl comes in a roll usually measuring 4 feet long. This material is very heavy and dense, but it is also relatively thin. What you can do to make your wall even more soundproof when adding an extra layer of drywall and some noise-proofing compound is by adding a layer of mass-loading vinyl on top of that. All you need to do is cut a layer of MLV the size of the wall you want to insulate and attach it on your existing wall before adding the second layer of drywall. You will see a significant decrease in sound coming from the other side of the wall. Another thing you can do, of course, is talk to the owners. There is a way to get a party wall soundproof without costing any money. It might take some sweet talking, but complaints to the owner of the building might yield some results. In most new constructions, companies try to do a good job of either using double-walled or staggered stud wall construction. Both of these works to help with noise reduction, but it was not always required in other buildings. When this type of construction was not used when the party wall first went up, see if there's a way to push for some type of solution. They might not be able to build a new party wall to help people out, but they might pay for other soundproofing solutions. If there is a lot of noise passing through the wall, it is something that needs addressing. It helps if both sides put in a request to put some additional pressure on the owner. If the noise problem is noticeable, chances are the neighbor also has some issues from time to time as well. This is when two sides needs to work together as much as possible to come up with the best soundproofing solutions. A big reason why noise is heard through a party wall is that it is not set up with enough noise reduction qualities. This is not the fault of either person, so unless they are being unreasonably loud, there is no reason to be mad. By working together, treatment is possible on both sides of the wall. That means that neither side has to add twice the amount of mass to see similar results. By sharing the load, adding mass is kept at a minimum. Space and living conditions are also not altered nearly as much. Keep in mind that there is no way to eliminate all sounds passing through a party wall. For those people who really can't deal with any noise whatsoever, the only solution is to move to a different building that simply doesn't have a party wall. For those who just want to make things a little easier, some reliable improvement options really do not cost that much money. In fact, it takes very little time to set up these solutions as well, so instant results are available. Try to be as cordial as possible with the party on the other side, because they can help reduce the sound as well. Anything from changing their habits to adding soundproof material to their side of the wall will make an impact. Whining or complaining about too much noise coming from one side is not going to lead to any positive results whatsoever. Feel free to take a look at many of our other YouTube videos and also some of our articles on our website, soundproofguide.com. Don't forget to click the like button if you enjoyed this video, and also consider subscribing to our channel if you like our content. Also, feel free to leave us a comment below if you have any soundproofing questions of your own. We will certainly try our very best to help you. Thank you very much for watching, and I hope to see you again in the next video or any other videos in our channel. Thank you very much.